Well, tell us a little bit about the journey. So you've gone from startup in 2020, uh, 2 to 2.2 million this year. Next year you're looking to push three. So you've had a pretty big growth jump, 100% really between 21 and 22. Now you're a little bit flat, but you put a lot of systems in place to move up here for next year. So tell us about that journey of getting to where you are today, and major obstacles, setbacks, some of the best decisions you made.
Yeah, no, that's a great question again for, just to share, kind of my journey. I was fortunate, I would say, Rick, in my situation to have been in the industry a very long time. I didn't start my business until I was 40 years old. And so for me, I think I was able to have a jump on some things that may be harder for some of your listening audience that's younger and they've been out here building, with the tool belt on, but they don't have that business experience behind them to lean on. But for me, it started in 2020 when I started the business. I knew going into it, I did not want just a job. So I'm thinking, how do I create a business? Well, the first thing I know I need to do is I need to create systems and processes. And so that's really what I did. The lion's share of my first year in business was getting licensed. I did not have my general contractor's license. Well, during COVID, as you can imagine, this was delayed several times. I had my test, showed up for my test, and the proctor never showed up, for example. And so all this study and prep. So it took me, on until the end of July before I even got licensed in 2020. Okay. And so it was not a revenue producing year, the first year for me. It was really, for me, I took the time to invest in the business and myself. And what I mean by that is I implemented things like co-construct, I software systems, and I built out contracts. I built out specification templates and contract templates and all of the things that I knew I would be needing as I got busy. So when 2021 hit and the latter part of 2020, I was prepared for that. So in 2021, it was just me. In 2020, it was just me. In 2021, it was just me. So I was building custom homes. I had projects going. I would go out to the site. I would be there most of the day, leading my crews. I didn't tool belt a lot. Still would work with my subcontractors, but I was leading and overseeing everything. And of course, I, like a typical builder, come back into the office, work all night, and all of the things, man, doing accounting and sales and marketing and project management and quality control and just everything. And obviously I knew this is not where I want to stay. And so I quickly was able to reach out to some of my network and bring some folks in. And so again, we've now got 3 team members. I've got 2 full-time folks and 1 part-time gal that helps me out in the office. And that's just been helpful. Again, those systems that I created in 2020 where I wasn't making any money yet. Yeah. But what I've done is I've created opportunity now for my team. We're now using those systems that I created 2.5, 3 years ago.
So what I hear you saying is, it was sort of probably accidental that with COVID, it delayed things so much. It really gave you the time to focus on those systems, but you also made sure that from a financial standpoint, it's like, hey, I can get through this year of maybe where I'm not going to be revenue positive, but I'll take lots of time, invest into the company, which now you're seeing the fruits of 3 years later, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, it definitely, again, 2020 was not a strong financial year for the business or my family, but we had things in the pipeline. It wasn't like we had a completely empty pipeline. There were things that we were working in process. And so
something to keep the lights on, a little bit of cash.
It was coming, Rick, I knew it was coming. Right. And again, that's why I had to put the effort in. And I know it's hard for, again, your listening audience. If you're out there tool belting and you're building, decks every day and you're doing all the things, man, how do you have time to implement? That's a really good question. I mean, the answer really is you just have to make the time.
Yes. And that goes back to working on the business, right? Having the discipline to work on the business. And I get a lot of, I always talk to builders, it's sort of like your size. And they talk to me and say, hey, Rick, I'm thinking about hiring a salesperson. And, my response to this is like, well, do you have a defined sales process that you can measure, right down to each part of the sales process? Because if the answer is no, you are actually, you're lighting a stick of dynamite by bringing somebody in because there's no parameters, and so you can't manage something that you can't measure. which is important. So yeah, so you want to scale your systems. Obviously, you put those processes in place. You create your KPIs or key performance indicators. So now you can measure that going forward. You can measure your employee effectiveness, and then now you can manage that as you grow your. So really, really good point about making sure you focus on getting those systems done. And let's face it, to an extent, we are all trying to build a doghouse around a running dog. I mean,
right.
We're all.
Right.
I mean, it's just a matter of how fast that dog is running. Because if the dog is sitting there laying in the shade and you're building the doghouse, there's not a whole lot of money coming in the door. So you've got to figure out and how to do that. And I remember one of my mentors back said, made this statement, really stuck with me. He said, in order to get in balance, you have to be out of balance. In other words, you're going to have to put a whole lot in, that flywheel effect, getting that flywheel started in order to get in balance, like 2, 3, 4 years down. I think we're always looking for that, trying to make sure we have that good work-life balance, and we don't have to spend 60, 70 hours a week working in the business. We have the ability to step away from the business. It can still operate without us, where we're not a key to making it go on a daily basis.